morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're at. If you're over there on the West Coast, it's morning. East Coast, your afternoon. Here, Central Time, you're slightly afternoon. So it's good to be back in this seat. It's good to be back behind this beautiful microphone. And we're going to be talking a myriad of things today, mostly just boxing talk. JC in the building, appreciate you for coming through. Y'all make sure y'all hit the like as you come in, and do me a favor as well. As most of you catch this in the archive, we've been averaging, it depends on the topic, right? But a show with not as great of a topic will do about 600 views. So we should be getting 600 likes total. So if you're in the chat, make sure to hit that like button. But if you're watching this in the archive, as my guy Lil Penny always does, and others, Wheelchair Man John, a lot of people watch this in the archive because we average right around the same. The retention is great. When people watch this show, they watch the show, which I'm proud of. So when you're doing that, make sure you just hit that like button. Just hit that like button for me. I'd like to get to 100 likes on every show. I think that's a good goal, right? And usually we get to about 70 or 80. I'd like to get to 100. If 600 people are watching this, let's get to 100 at least. Shock Foster, Eduardo Hernandez. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. We're going to talk about Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia's got an interesting comment out there that I like. And when we talk about boxing, it's very much, it requires nuance, right? Nuance. And we'll talk about the nuance behind, say, a Ryan Garcia. Because Ryan Garcia said something in an interview that I'm going to show earlier. I got 3 clips that I'm going to show everybody today. 3 clips, and we're going to talk about those 3 clips in detail. Ryan Garcia has one of them. And I very much like what he's saying in one of them that I'm excited about. And we're going to be talking about this Canelo versus Munguia news for May. Dude, I saw this last night. I was off of Twitter yesterday. I just wasn't on social media yesterday. Had stuff going on. And I had people, I arrived to Twitter with multiple DMs, and it was all the same news clip, news cycle. And I understand why people send me this, because they know I talk about it in the Canelo news cycle, and people just, they cannot deal with it. They just can't deal with it. It's the same thing every time. I just started laughing when I saw it because I already knew what the comment section looked like below. It looked like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I knew it before I even saw the comment section. I know what this is, and I know what the comment section already looks like. It's hilarious. So I'll be talking about that in detail later on. Canelo versus Munguia and that whole news story that broke yesterday. Salute to JC. Salute to my guy Nando. I gotta wait till the end of the show to hit the like. I gotta see if you fit my narrative. Shout out my guy HLD in the building. So make sure y'all are hitting that like. If I do hit your narrative, if I do hit that G spot later, pause. If I do hit that narrative, make sure you do a quick thing real quick, X out of the chat, and then hit that like, and then bring the chat back up. So if I do hit your narrative later. About Munguia, there's a subtext of what's going on with PBC, right? Yes. And Nando, once again, is nuance, and they can't handle nuance. And we're going to talk about that. And there's just a lot to break down of that little news story yesterday. A lot. But the comment section, I knew it. I knew it was coming to that. I know JC's got the G spot. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But let's talk about Shock Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez first, because hardcores, we like to talk about fights. And what this weekend proves is circus acts draw a lot more. Despite what we want to think, we'd like to think that the 50-50, the good fights, good stylistic matchups, when we behave the way we should behave, as power brokers, as boxing fans, that's going to get rewarded, but it doesn't. This weekend proves that, in that Tyson Fury versus Ngannou, that whole circus act there is going to overshadow, it's going to blip this whole Shock Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez, which is a good fight. This is a good fight, fellas. This is a good matchup. We don't know if it's a good fight till the fight actually happens, as Roberto Diaz has told me in the past when we had him on, but good matchup on paper. It's a good matchup on paper. And I hope people go and watch this. I hope it delivers ratings. I hope Shock Foster is rewarded for his behavior. Shock Foster to me represents everything that's right about boxing. And maybe he has to behave this way because he doesn't have the market value, right? Fair enough, but he's still behaving this way. And how is he behaving? Well, he goes to fight Ray Vargas after putting on a multiple fight win streak, after being forgot about after a loss several years ago. And then he puts together a win streak and he leverages that into a fight with Ray Vargas. And PBC pretty much gives up on him, by the way, and he becomes a free agent after that. But he wins the fight with Ray Vargas, and he wins it convincingly. A fight that he was an underdog in, that most people were picking him to lose. And then he wins the fight. And what happens after that fight? He doesn't get the offers that he wants. I'm sitting there next to him at the Prograis fight, and he's like, Eddie's over there. You want me versus Cordina? Go talk to Eddie because I'm trying. I'm trying. Look, I'm trying, dude. Like, I know you want it, but I'm trying. Go talk to him. I'm trying to get a meeting with him tonight. And he doesn't get the meeting. And Eddie's out there saying, we can't make that right now because it's not viable financially, yada, yada, yada. And fair enough. Fair enough. But what does Shock Foster do instead of just whining and sitting on the shelf? And that night, he told me, regardless, I'm going to be back September, October, I'll be back. And true to his word, he is. And what's he do? He's back against, I believe it's mandatory, and the best option available to him at the time. He's not going to sit around and soak that he's not getting a Cordina fight. Lee Woods moving up to 130. Warrington possibly moving up. He's not going to soak that he can't get those fights. What's he going to do? He's going to go fight. He's going to go fight. And not only that, this is what I truly value about what Shock Foster is doing right now. He's going to Mexico to fight Hernandez. He's going to Cancun to fight Hernandez. Right? And then after that, he's saying, dude, I will go out there. I will go overseas. I will go to the UK. I will fight their champions. I will fight Cordina. Lee Woods moving up to 130. I'll fight him. Warrington, 130. I'll fight him. I'll fight whoever they have to offer because I know that's where the money is at. I know they're the A sides. I get it. I will go over there and fight them wherever you want me to fight. You want me to fight in Mexico against a Mexican? You want me to go to the UK to fight against a UK guy? Fair enough. I'll go. And this is a dangerous fight, fellas. It's reflected in the betting odds. He is a less than 2-1 favorite. It's down to about minus 185. People see the value in Eduardo Hernandez in a wild card fight. He's a Mexican fighter who throws a lot of hooks. This guy's a warrior. He's a shorter, stockier guy who can get on the inside and make it a tough night for Shock Foster. And I like Hernandez's style. Stylistically, I'd rather Hernandez's style than Shock Foster's. It's more entertaining to me, but I'm cheering for Shock Foster in this fight. Why? Because to me, he's doing all the right things, and it brings value to me as a boxing fan. He's willing to go on other people's turf to fight the fights. He's willing to take the money, fair value to fight these fights, to unify. To me, he represents everything that's right with boxing right now. And look, this doesn't do me any good as a content creator because nobody out there is talking about Shock Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez. Why? Because you're going to see it reflected in the chat right now. Watch when I start talking about Canelo, how the numbers go up. Ryan Garcia, the numbers go up. And people are going to go straight to that and straight to talking about Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. Why? Because it's the circus act in town. It's the flashier thing. And people are going to want to hear about that. And that's why I highlight this and what's happening this weekend. When I think about Shock Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez as a boxing fan, I talk about Shock Foster and his value he brings to the table. And Eduardo Hernandez being an entertaining fight. And this fight is happening where it belongs. It's happening when it belongs. Shock Foster's not crying that he can't get the fights. He's going out there and putting in the work and saying, all right, I'll go fight him in Mexico. Dangerous opponent. Yeah. He can make it a rough night for me. He can make it a nightmare on Halloween weekend. He can upset all of my plans. I've done all this work to get here, to get this title, legit title. I wasn't handed it like Raleigh Romero. Legit title that I worked for, and I'm putting it on the line against a tough puncher on his home turf. And if I lose this fight, it all crumbles. I go right back to the back of the line because nobody's going to pay attention to Oshake Foster without a belt. The belt is what brings me value. If ever there was a fighter who symbolizes that belts matter to a lot of fighters, it's Shock Foster. He needs that belt at the negotiation table. He needs it for leverage. It's what brings him value. But he's putting it on the line against a tough opponent. And that's why I like this stylistic matchup, by the way, because Hernandez doesn't jab. He doesn't jab. Shock Foster does jab. Hernandez throws a bunch of hooks, almost strictly hooks. Shock Foster would rather not get into that fight, get into trades. He'd rather not hook with a hooker. Pause. And I just love to see what style is going to win out here. What style is going to win out? And it's a tough, dangerous fight. We need more fights like this in boxing, fellas. We have to back up what we're saying. You'll hear content creators out there, 100% of them are going to say, I just want 50-50 fights. I want good fights. I want to see good stylistic matchups. Just put on the fights. Well, prove it. Prove it. Everybody's talking about what a circus act Tyson Fury versus Munguia, Tyson Fury versus Ngannou is as far as hardcore boxing fans. We're saying that's not our fight. We're not a crossover market. It's not our fight. Well, prove it. Prove it. Prove it. Go watch the good fight and maybe not so much the bad fight. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, so do what you want. You want to watch both? Watch both. But I see content creators almost exclusively. 99% of them out there right now are talking about Fury versus Ngannou. You're not proving it. You're not proving your point. And I know why you're doing it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They feel like they know where the clicks are. And they're going to go after him. They're going to chase him. But that's building that fight up even more. And then everybody's just going to ignore Shock Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez. So be it. I have no breakdown over Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. None. None. What a joke of a fight. What I will say about that fight, though, is I saw Tyson Fury make a comment yesterday at a press conference and say, it wasn't my idea to roll out this Usyk fight before my fight with Ngannou. It wasn't my idea for this news to get out there. It's the power brokers who did it. I'm paraphrasing him. It's them who did it. I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch, or eggs before they hatch. He's lying. He's lying. They saw what was happening. They saw being raked over the coals by hardcore boxing fans. So how do they get back in their good graces? It becomes a very different thing, this fight, if Usyk is behind it in December or January. It becomes a very different thing. It becomes a tune-up at that point. And it becomes more tolerable. You can swallow it a little better if there's something right behind it. Fair enough. Just don't say just don't say I didn't want this news to break before the fight. He knows, and the reason he has to say that is he doesn't want the public to see this and say, you're already looking past Ngannou, so maybe this isn't just a circus act and a mismatch. He doesn't want that news out there. He wants his cake and eat it too. He wants to build up the Usyk fight. He's going to announce the Usyk fight. Usyk's going to be there for the Ngannou fight. And fair enough, man. That's great marketing. It is beautiful marketing. Beautiful marketing. But this is just a glorified tune-up at the end of the day. So forgive me if I don't want to break that fight down. Forgive me. Especially a tune-up that's $79.99. And that's a beautiful segue. I'm going to get to that in a minute after I get to these comments. Let's see what we got. Golden Boy. Good with Canelo. We'll break that down in a minute. Market value that says it. He's going to Mexico, and I bet the ring is small. Eduardo is a matchroom fighter or something, right? I know he fights on the zone. That's right. Munguia is going to whip Canelo if it happens. Mark my words. Salute. Don Chile. The zone keeps giving me months of boxing like October, and I'm cool. Rocky coming for the KO. He is. He is. Rocky by KO. All right. All right. We got some dudes in here saying Rocky Hernandez by KO. And this is that type of fight, right? It's the type of fight where a West Side, a Don Chile will say that and you say, I can see that. I can see that. It's reflected in the betting odds. They tend to agree with you that The most likely scenario, and it's about even odds, is that Shock Foster wins by decision. But the second most likely scenario is Rocky Hernandez by knockout. It's that type of fight. I can see if it goes 12, if Shock Foster is controlling the distance and he can handle the power, he wins. But if Rocky gets on the inside, it makes it a hell of a night, and we see early on that Shock Foster is not dealing with that pressure and power well, then we got ourselves something, fellas. We got ourselves something. Fury's going to win without a doubt. That ninja, too good. And I got news for people. I'll say this, too, about Tyson Fury. He's clever like a fox. I think they knew this whole time that they would get a Usyk deal done before the Ngannou fight, and they would start to roll this out before the Ngannou fight. And that way you can pitch this to both the casual market and the hardcore market as a glorified tune-up. And this is what's going to happen, is whether people like it or not, Tyson Fury is going to destroy Francis Ngannou however he wants to do. He'll carry him for a while, right? And then he'll win the fight. And he'll make $1 gazillion. And then a couple months from now, he'll fight Usyk because he's not going to break a sweat against Ngannou. Why not just bounce right back? And he'll likely hug him to death. He will likely stink that out. And you'll likely have another fight that was built up for a while now. We're going on a couple of years. This undisputed heavyweight championship has been built up, and it's likely going to be a dud on the other end. I'm just warning people about this because stylistically, I think that's a fight Tyson Fury stinks out and likely wins and becomes a gazillionaire and calls himself the greatest heavyweight champion of all time in the process. And you'll have a whole host of people believing that. They broke the Usyk news to get eyes on this fight. They did that, but they also did it to make it more tolerable for hardcore boxing fans. That's part of it too. When you announce something right behind a fight that nobody wants, as far as a hardcore market, the hardcore boxing fans have been conditioned to say, all right, I'll give you that one. If something's right behind it, I'll give you that one. That's fine. We'll talk about that later with Canelo in this whole May, September thing lining up next year. Salute to my guy, OG, Bruce Guess. Appreciate you always, Bruce, for rolling through. Nando, too. D-Style ducking me. Andre the Duck. Dudes kill me with the with their names on here. Andre the Duck God. Tyson is gonna KO Usyk, bro. Maybe. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's gonna be an ugly decision. That's what I think. But we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But I was segueing into Ryan Garcia. Why was I segueing into Ryan Garcia? Pause, by the way. Good Lord, pause. Zone's gonna be months. But anyway, I don't remember what the segue was, but let me share this clip with y'all. This will be the first one I play. There's gonna be 3 of them. And let me share this clip off the top. This is gonna be Ryan Garcia. He's on the Morning Combat. And he's giving an interview. I'm going to play the clip without setting it up, and then we'll talk about it. But let me get it up first. Present, share a screen, and I think it's this one. No, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's this one. All right, share. Boom. Here it is. This is Ryan Garcia talking with the Morning Combat. Play the clip, and we'll talk about it.
How validating did it feel to see the pay-per-view numbers and the live gate returns after such a big fight like that?
Oh, it is validating. You see where your worth is at and what you bring to the table. Obviously, I've been fighting on a subscription-based model for a long time. Now they're doing pay-per-view, DAZN. But I finally got to see what my pay-per-view numbers would be. But I also learned that, it takes 2 to tango. You can't just do it with one or the other. Tank is a big name. I'm a big name. That's why you had a great event. It's not too much. It's not rocket science.
Facts.
But you can't just put any pay-per-view out on the table. It's robbing fans if you put a shitty fight on pay-per-view. So for me,
yes,
being very selective on my pay-per-views, and that's why I didn't put this fight on pay-per-view. I didn't feel like that it should be.
How
Yes. 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 Forgive me if I get really excited about a comment like that. And boxing involves nuance. It involves nuance. We talked about this with Devin Haney, right? A channel like me, I'm going to get, there's a ceiling as far as how high I can go, because you'll have channels build up a base by liking certain fighters, disliking certain fighters, and they have to keep going with that, right? So you might have a channel that builds itself up based off of hate for Ryan Garcia. I'm just throwing this out as an example. I'm not saying they're out there, but just a specific example. And they cannot give Ryan Garcia any type of credit. So they're going to ignore a comment like this, or they're going to ignore that Ryan jumped through every hoop to get a Tank Davis fight. They're going to ignore all of that. And they're going to pay attention to the mental health thing. They're going to pay attention to anything that is negative towards Ryan Garcia, and they're going to ignore this. But what I'm telling you right here is pay attention to stuff like this, because certain guys are getting it out there. Certain guys are getting it. I'm going to talk about other fighters, the Canelo Alvarez's, the Tim Tszyu later on as I bring up more clips. Certain fighters are getting it. And when I hear Ryan say something like this, and he said stuff like this before, and there are things to take away from Ryan Garcia like that are not good. The whole mental health thing that he went through. And look, if you want to call him soft, fair. You want to say he's not that good of a fighter, fair. That's all fair stuff I actually agree with, right? You know, he hasn't proved it yet. His one step up, he came up short. He looked very flawed. Some other things he said, throwing trainers under the bus, throwing his promoters under the bus in the post-fight press conference. He's a diva. All that's fair. But what I'm saying is there are some positives to pay attention to when it comes to Ryan Garcia that tells me he gets market value. He understands it. He understands how to market himself. And he understands long-term thinking. And this shows me that. What did he say? It's not rocket science, right? It should be easy to get. It's not every fight's a pay-per-view fight, right? I mean, that makes perfect sense. Like Tank versus Isak Cruz shouldn't have been a pay-per-view. Tank versus Hector Luis Garcia shouldn't have been a pay-per-view. If you really want to build up Tank versus Ryan Moore, you should have put that with the subscription. Tank versus Rowley Romero is not a pay-per-view. These aren't pay-per-view value fights. So I think Ryan's seeing some of the mistakes that Tank's making and saying, I'm not going to make those mistakes. Ryan may have studied Oscar De La Hoya's career. Remember when Oscar loses to Mayweather, and what's his next move? A year later, what's he do? He fights Stevie Forbes at the tennis courts, and they put it on regular HBO. It's not. Today, they put it on HBO pay-per-view, right? Or whatever pay-per-view, DAZN pay-per-view. But in between Mayweather and Pacquiao, and De La Hoya had a lot of fights like this. Say a Chop Corley. They're not putting those fights on pay-per-view. That's not a pay-per-view value fight. When I see a fighter, like a new age fighter, say something like, I'm not going to rob the fans, I understand that. I understand where he's coming from. And that reels me back in a little bit. Because, like I said, there are some things I see Ryan Garcia do and say. He looks a little corny, right? And he's hitting the double end bag on Instagram and acting like he's the greatest thing in the world. And you see that, you're like, ugh. But then he says something like this and it reels you back in. It's like, whoa, okay. All right. So this guy fights Tank Davis. I think that was in May, right? Whatever month that was, March, whatever it was, April. And he jumps through every hoop to fight the fight. And fair enough. You could say he's just going for the payday. Fine, if you want to say that. But then if he does this again in 2024, if he fights a Teofimo Lopez, if he fights a Devin Haney, then you say, okay, wait a second. He's saying the right things. He's fighting Duarte with the subscription. That's not a pay-per-view. And then he's going to give you another big fight, and that's going to be a pay-per-view. None of us are saying we're anti-pay-per-view 100%. We're just saying you have to bring us value with the pay-per-view. And that's what Ryan is saying here. There's no value to a Ryan Garcia versus Oscar Duarte on pay-per-view. That's not a pay-per-view value fight. I'm not going to rob the fans. And I appreciate his honesty. And forgive me if I find that endearing, that a new age fighter is saying something like that. Like, I'm not going to rob you. For years, Mayweather, what did he do? He bragged about robbing the bank. He bragged about robbing the fans. And then a lot of us hardcores are seeing that and we're like, what is this? What is this? Why would I want to be involved in this? What is this? And then Ryan Garcia comes along in an interview. So forgive me if I get excited about him saying, I'm not going to rob the fans. This isn't a pay-per-view value fight. So it's not going to be on pay-per-view. I'm like, yes, you're right. It's not rocket science. It's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's not rocket science. Even if I don't love the messenger here, I love the message, and I'm open to this could go somewhere. What do I always say on here is leave yourself open to the fact that some fighters that you don't necessarily like right now, a year, 2, 3 years from now, you might end up warming up to. We see this in series all the time. Like a series goes along, you're like, that dude Lannister, the dude with the hand in Game of Thrones. I would have never thought I would like that dude. When he throws Bran at the beginning, one of the first episodes out of the window, the kid, and then all of a sudden, as the show goes on, you end up he's your favorite character. Leave yourself open that could happen in boxing. And when I see a Ryan Garcia say something like this, I'm like, I got to keep that door open. Maybe so. Maybe if this dude gives us the Duarte fight with the subscription and then gives us a Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney next, maybe so. Maybe so. He's the main reason the Tank Davis fight happened, by the way. And all you dudes out there celebrating Ryan versus Tank 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, and that was such a great fight to jumpstart boxing in 2023. Who do you have most to like reward for that? Who had the most to do with that? It's Ryan. How many hoops did that dude jump through to get that fight, to give you that fight? Duarte is a tough dude. I think De La Hoya sold out a soccer stadium for the Forrest fight, 30,000. It was in Carson, and it did 30,000, whatever it did. It did capacity, and it was on regular pay-per-view, regular HBO. I remember it like it was yesterday. That was after the Mayweather fight, a year after the Mayweather fight, Cinco de Mayo weekend, and then he gave you the Pacquiao fight. I think it was that December. So in between pay-per-view, he gave you that fight. And he understood it's not a pay-per-view fight. And Oscar understood that. And this was the norm back then. You didn't see pay-per-view fighters just strictly fight on pay-per-view every fight. Unless there were pay-per-view level fights. And we got to get back to that. Nobody out here is saying that we don't want pay-per-views at all. All we're saying is you got to give us value for our money. Nice baby feeders. Good Lord. Respect to him. That's all I'm saying. Ryan got more good De La Hoya to him than folks think. We'll see. We'll see as time goes on. I'm glad you played that Ryan video. Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to play that. And it's not rocket science. It's just not rocket science. It's easy. This is easy. It's easy stuff. So I think the Duarte fight's going to be good, but I'm glad he's given it to us for a market value price. Let me play another clip for you before I get to the Canelo stuff. Let me see if this is it. This is it. So we talked throughout the week about a great reset and why I don't think it's possible. And part of the reason it's not possible is because of the entitlement of this generation of fighters. And we've talked about this, the entitlement of, and that's a microcosm of this generation in general, just entitlement. Right. So I'm going to play this clip. It's not boxing related, but we can relate it to boxing. I want y'all to listen to this young lady right here speak about coming out of college and entering the job market, and then we're going to relate it to boxing. Listen to this young lady.
I know I'm probably just being so dramatic and annoying, but this is my first job, like my first 9 to 5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me fucking forever to get there. There's no way I'm gonna be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table. Like, fucking duh! If I was able to walk to work and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, like, I leave here, like, I get on the train at 7:30, and I don't get home till, like, 6:15 earliest, and then, like, I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window. Like,
Oh no. Oh
I'm
no.
so upset. Oh my God. Nothing to do with my job at all, but just like the 9 to 5 schedule in general is crazy. Being in the office 9 to 5, like if it was remote, you get off at 5.
Oh, now she's buffering.
And you're home and everything's fine. But like I'm not home. It takes me long to get home, and like people that drive to the office, like you don't get off at 5. And I know it could be worse. I know I could be working longer, but like I literally get off, it's pitch black. Like I don't have energy. How do you have friends? Like how do you have time to like meet like a guy? I don't know. Like how do you have time for like dating? Like I don't have time for anything, and I'm like so stressed out. And I'm also getting my period, so that's why I'm all emotional. But like, am I so dramatic? It's fine.
That's my favorite part at the end. It's fine. It's fine. But this speaks to the entitled generation and why, dude, I'm telling y'all right now, all you dudes out there who are hoping for this great reset to happen in boxing, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. And I'm not trying to be Mr. Negativity here, because I've seen Nando allude to this in the chat, and I would echo this, is we can still get what we want. And we can still get a somewhat functional sport. And when we do, what this year proved is, even with a lot of our foundational issues, if we just get some of that together, like if we just tackle network exclusivity, we can still get a functioning sport for the most part, even with all of its flaws, without having a great reset. We don't necessarily need a great reset to get, it would be nice, don't get me wrong. It would be nice to get what we want all the time and have fights every weekend, which we should, by the way, which we should. We should have fighters fighting the top 10 pound for pound, fighting more than 13, 14 times collectively in a year. We should have that. We should have fighters fighting bare minimum twice per year. 3 shouldn't be too much to ask for. We should have this stuff, but we can still get somewhat of a functional sport, even with an entitled generation, even with our foundational issues, right? So that's the good news. People are right when they say that. But this young lady right here, and we talked about hoflation a couple weeks ago, right? And I saw a video about a young lady similar, and she's talking about how she has to spend $1,000 for products, and that's not even including her makeup. Her makeup makes it more. And she wants $200 bare minimum for a first date. And I see this long list of no's. Like you cannot take, it's a 28 point list of places that women refuse to go to on a first date. And one of them is like a walk in the park. I'm like, you can't go to a walk in the park on your first date anymore? And this girl wants $200 minimum, bare minimum, for a first date. I'm saying, first of all, that's pretty cheap compared to some of the women I see out here now. But why are you even giving a bare minimum? Because it depends on where you go, and you can still have good cup. Why is coffee off limits for a first date? They're saying coffee is off limits. A lunch date is off limits. Bowling, putt-putt, top golf. Why is this off limits? You can still have a conversation. With my wife, I spent like 60, 70 bucks on our first date because we went to a restaurant and then we walked on the river in New Orleans and talked and sat there and talked for like 2.5 hours. It's the best first date I've ever been on. And she agreed. Why are you giving a bare minimum for a first date? Why are you saying, no, I'm not going to these places on a first date? How do you know you're not going to enjoy the coffee on the first date? And I know I'm going off track, but it speaks to the entitlement of women in the dating space. It speaks to the entitlement of not just women, but men coming out of the college market, getting a general studies degree or a liberal arts degree, and feeling they're entitled to a job sitting at home in front of their computer to where they can take long walks, hour lunches, and get six figures. This is what they feel they're entitled to now. My first job out of college, this was 20 years ago, and dude, they offered me $26,000, and guess what? I took it and I was ecstatic. $26,000 a year. Ecstatic that I get to get in the marketplace and start to build up my resume. But that goes to show you how much things have changed in a generation. Is they would scoff at 26,000. Even if you adjust that to inflation, say it's 40, 45,000, they would scoff at something like that. And it speaks to where we're at with boxing right now is to you see a Frank Martin turn down $1 million to fight Shakur Stevenson, and he has no options. That's a fighter with no options. He's a 30-year-old prospect. Say no. I don't want to fight him for 8 times the money. Why not? Why not? Why not? And he doesn't give a good answer. And we know why not. We know he doesn't think he can win the fight. And when people tell me fighters want to fight, it's the system doing it to them. Fighters want to fight. I don't believe you anymore. Sorry, I don't believe it. Show me. Fighters want to fight. Why don't they fight? Why aren't they demanding fights? You're turning down $1 million, 8 times what you got paid for any other fight. And your promoter, advisor, your company doesn't have a platform. So where are you going to fight next? I just have questions here. Where are you going to fight? Good luck doing co-promotional work in the future with Top Rank if you turn down 8 times what you got paid over here to fight their fighter. Good luck. What are your options now? What are your options? And many people are going to do what this young lady may do. She may go live in the basement at her parents' house because she doesn't feel like, oh my God, I got to wake up at 6:30 and put my makeup on, and then I got to travel 45 minutes to work, and then, oh my God, OMG, like literally, I can't work out, and like literally pitch dark, pitch black when I get off, and like literally, like, how do you even date with this? Like literally, like who would want to date you anyway? Who would want to date this girl saying that bare minimum $200? Why are you even giving a bare minimum? Say it depends on where we go. Say it depends on who it is. Oh my God, but you don't understand, like $1,000 in product. I didn't ask you to spend $1,000 in product, not even including your makeup. I talk to my wife about this all the time. And it speaks to, look, my wife, beautiful young lady. My wife, love her to death. Great person. But I say, she's like, I got to get my nails done. I got to get my nails done. It's like, why can't you just file your nails and then paint them? That's what my mom used to do. I remember this. She just nail filer and paint them. Now I got to go get them done. You know? So what are you getting them done for? I'm getting it done for myself. No, you're not. No, you're not. Women say this all the time. I'm getting it done for myself. I'm doing this for myself. You're not. You're not. And there's a disconnect between men and women in that men think women are attracted to the things that we're not attracted to. We're just not. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to break it to the women who may watch this. We're not attracted to a lot of the things you think we're attracted to. And you're actually doing things that women are demanding. You're actually doing things like you saw the Kardashians do them, and you thought that men like that. But guess what? Kim Kardashian is single. She's been divorced multiple times. You had several men say, I don't want to be married to her anymore. You had several men just go through that and say, she's crazy. So stop emulating that. And then maybe you should be talking to the men about what we're actually attracted to. Perhaps. Or you can be the 40-year-old cat lady one day. Your whole house smelling like a litter box. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but maybe if we translate this to boxing, maybe, just maybe, it's what I've talked about with Steven Espinoza. Stop ignoring the market. Stop ignoring boxing fans telling you, hey, this is what we're attracted to. Maybe you should give us more of this. Maybe. And as far as us, it's our fault too, because like this weekend, we will be sending mixed signals. We will be rewarding fights, and it's hard to see what we're actually rewarding because all the numbers are fake. Even the live gates they're lying about now. But you can see it this weekend. We say we want 50-50 fights between boxer, puncher, stuff like that, good stylistic matchups, tough fights, but we're going to largely ignore the content creators. Look at it. Go look at it. After this podcast, do me a favor. This is your homework. Go to the YTBC and see how many people are doing previews for O'Shake Foster versus Eduardo Hernandez. And then look at how many people are talking about Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, which is a crap fight. Do it. So we're sending mixed signals too. We're doing it too. Just like men in the dating space. We're saying we don't like fake women, but we're attracted to women with the breasts that are fake, the butts that are fake, the caterpillar eyebrows. Stop sending mixed signals. But so we got to stop sending mixed signals, but they got to start listening to us at the same time. Start listening. We're your test market. We're going to buy from you too. So listen to us, and then we'll go out and talk to the casuals, and the casuals end up liking what we like anyway for the most part. So I don't know, man. I do job interviews for the place I work at. Calix demands these young people make are amazing. Shout out D-Style Boxing. Appreciate the super chat. And I know that for a fact because my wife owns a business where she has a bunch of employees. And guess what? Guess what the first thing she does? And I got news for you. If you are in the job market right now and you're looking for a job, I'm going to give you the best advice I can give you is the first thing you do is you scrub your social medias, because that is the first thing she looks at when she hires somebody or it's looking to hire somebody. She looks to see who is the drama. And when you see all like the politics too, that's a red flag. Is you stay away from hiring those people. You stay away from it. So scrub your social medias and do all that stuff. But it's right. Like the demand right now. And they're getting away with it is the part of it. The fighters are getting away with it. I'm going to show you another clip here. Let me present this one. This is Charles Barkley. And I've talked about how in a lot of ways, what we're seeing in boxing is similar to what we're seeing in NBA. The NBA is shrinking. The American market is shrinking. But the global market is spreading like wildfire, particularly in places like Asia, the UK. But NBA even more so, as you can imagine, much bigger fan base. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of overpaid athletes, entitlements, athletes feeling like they're entitled to things that athletes of previous generations would have never demanded. But this is Charles Barkley right here. Listen to him. He's not holding back on this one.
If you're injured, don't play. But if you're injured, don't play. But everybody hurts after the first 2 weeks of the season. Your legs sore, your knees sore. If you're injured, I don't want you to play. But the notion that, number one, bless these guys. You're making $30, $40, $50 million to play basketball 4 days a week. Y'all got the best shoes. You got the best medical staff. You got these guys sleeping in chambers. You got ice baths. Man, if you can play, shut the hell up and play. I don't know if there was a question in there.
And he's telling that, hold on, let me get this out of here. He's telling that to the commissioner of the league. He's not asking him a question. The commissioner's there to answer questions. Chuck's not asking him a question. He's telling him, get this load management out of here. I talked about this last year where I take my son to Pelicans games and we look and we see the top players on each team in street clothes. You can't even pay a couple $100s to go to an NBA game now and see your star players a lot of the times because they're going to be load managed. They come up with a fake injury and they're just going to sit them because maybe they're on a back-to-back of a road trip. Maybe they're on a back-to-back nice. I don't know, but they're going to load manage them. And there is a market for this. There is such a vacuum for this. And I think there's another thing content creators are missing. The bigger ones is they're missing that there is a vacuum for this. And boxing fans are tired of, first of all, being preached down to, and we're also tired of being abandoned. And I think you have a lot of NBA fans in America who feel abandoned And Chuck is speaking to them here. Like, we're tired of paying all this money. And then these players are getting $30-40 million a year to play 50 games out of the 82 game schedule. What is this? What is this? And that's us as boxing fans. Is why the hell am I seeing Errol Spence Jr. ranked higher than Canelo Alvarez on a pound for pound list in major publications? Why is that? He was on a 15-month layoff before the Bud Crawford fight. He fought 2 times in the same span Canelo Alvarez fight 6. And he's ranked higher? What are you rewarding here? What are we rewarding? We're rewarding inactive fighters. When we see a Tank Davis pop up in major publications, in pound for pound list, and he's climbing 10, then 9, then 8. First of all, I know why he's there. I know why he's there in major publications now, because these publications are tired of being called racist. They're tired of being called all kind of names in the book, Hitler, David Duke, because they're not rewarding Tank Davis. And this is being amplified by the Leonard Ellerbys, the Stephen Espinosas of the world, who are taking away credentials, first of all, from people who call this stuff out, but then amplifying comments like this and pushing them on the major publications to where they're going to have to give in at some point. Yeah, you know, he doesn't have the greatest. Tank Davis has the thinnest resume of anybody on a pound for pound list in the major publications is Adrian Broner. I'm convinced of it. But he's still there. Why? They're tired of dealing with it. They're exhausted. But they're paid. My reaction to that when dudes call me this is go to hell. I have a much smaller platform and I don't get paid. And my reaction is go to hell. Tank Davis isn't a pound for pound fighter. He doesn't have the resume. Sorry. If you can say I have tiki torches in the closet all you want. I don't care. It's not a pound for pound fighter. Sorry. Do something. Fight somebody. But the major publications are going to give in because they're just tired of it. They don't want to lose the credentials. They don't want to be called these names, constantly called these names. They just don't want to deal with it. So they give in. But we're abandoned as boxing fans because we see that behavior being rewarded and we're like, what do I do? What do I do? Thin resumes being rewarded, inactivity being rewarded. And there's a way to push back on this stuff. And I don't know if it's going to work as far as getting them to give us what we want, but you can at least try it. You can at least try to say, look, man, you're not going to fight in 12 months. You're off the pound for pound list. You're off the rankings too. Divisional rankings, you're off. You're off. You're off. Sanctioning bodies won't follow, but you're off. Pound for pound, you haven't fought in 12 months. You're off. You fought 2 times in the same span. This guy's fought 6 times. And he lost to another top pound for pound fighters. I'm not going to rank you ahead of him. That should be easy, that part. But even that, we just feel abandoned as boxing fans. We just don't have a voice out there. We just don't have a voice. But this right here. So this was broken yesterday, and these were being sent to me like crazy via DM. And let me tell you, and appreciate the super chat, D-Style. I'm going to get some more comments here in a minute. Canelo Alvarez's next 2 fights in 2024 will reportedly both still be broadcast by Showtime pay-per-view in the USA, despite Showtime Sports shutting down at the end of 2023. This had been previously agreed as part of his deal with Al Haymon's PBC, according to ESPN MX. And shortly after this, Dan Raphael said this isn't true. So that calls into question this next report. And this was the one that was sent to me like crazy yesterday. Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia is reportedly possible for May, while Canelo versus David Benavidez is being contemplated for September. It's claimed that Munguia will join Canelo's list of potential opponents if he wins planned fight versus John Ryder in January. There is a lot here. There is a lot. And forgive me for laughing, but there is a lot in this little report right here. First of all, I knew what the comment section was going to look. I knew it was going to look like Ground Zero 9/11, the comment section. I knew when I went on Twitter last night and I saw these DMs, I was like, my God, those comment sections are going to be a disaster. My God. Because they cannot help themselves. They are like a cat. The anti-Canelo gang is like a cat, like just following a laser pointer. Like you ever point a laser at the wall and then a cat is in the room, and they're just going to follow. They're just going to run all off this. Forget everything else going on in the room. They just cannot take their eye off the laser. And with this, the Canelo news cycle is the laser, and the Canelo haters are the cat. They just cannot. They cannot, man. Like I might just start reporting fake news when it comes to Canelo, like once a week, just to enjoy the reactions, because it'll prove my point. This is a perfect example of it. They cannot, dude. They cannot go a week without getting some sort of Canelo news, and they need it. It's like vultures need roadkill. It's like vampires need blood. They need it. They need it. They're the crayon eaters in the back of the classroom. They need to eat their crayons. They need it. They need the Canelo news. And despite what it is, no matter what it is, they're going to react negatively to it. Always. Every single time. And I knew it. I knew when I came up, when I saw this, I knew what the reaction was going to be. To a T. And let's start with the end of this. Munguia, if he wins planned fight versus John Ryder in January, first of all, that fight isn't agreed upon, but I'm hearing it will be. And that's quite the assumption to make, first of all, because like in the chat, who do y'all think wins between Munguia and Ryder? And I'm pretty sure it'll be split, maybe 50-50. I would favor John Ryder against Munguia. Be honest with you. So that's the first part of this, is we have to assume Munguia gets past John Ryder. It's a big assumption. That's a 50-50 fight. I would actually put it 55-45 John Ryder, to be honest with you. The second part of this is a couple weeks ago. Remember when I showed that Steven Espinoza clip about him and the person posting the clip missing the point of the clip? And Steven Espinoza was talking about possible opponents for Canelo Alvarez, and he's throwing out Bivol, and he's throwing out a mandatory, and we knew the mandatory was Munguia. He's saying mandatories that people might not necessarily want, and he's talking about who specifically? DAZN fighters. You're like, huh? He's talking about DAZN fighters. Canelo fighting DAZN fighters next. Interesting. And at the time, we're being called haters because we're reading too much into it, right? Showtime hasn't announced they're out the door yet. And, you know, you're just reading too much into it. But you're like, why is Bivol and Munguia coming into the picture? And it's because of the network stuff. Fellas, there is so much going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to right now. And we don't know how this is going to shake out in 2024. I know that TBC, which is PBC, has two dates on hold in Vegas for February, and I'm assuming one of those is Tank Davis, but we have no idea where those fights are going to be broadcast at. Is it going to be DAZN? Is it going to be Amazon? Who knows? We don't know what platform Canelo is fighting on next year. We just don't know. But the fact that you're seeing these names being brought up gives us a little bit of a clue, right? So read what you want into that. But Canelo Alvarez versus Jaime Munguia is reportedly possible for May. And when I read that, I was like, okay, ESPN MX, they possibly are quite likely falsely reported that this is going to be Canelo will be on Showtime pay-per-view 2024. That's quite likely wrong. So maybe, just maybe, this reporting is wrong. Maybe it is. But the same thing happens every time. This happens ad nauseum. It happens every single time. It's a vicious cycle. Is somebody will report something about Canelo's next fight or next opponent or something like that, and half of the time it's wrong. Actually, probably 90% of the time it's wrong. Like the guy who reported he's going to fight Carlos Adames next. It's the same thing over and over. And people are reacting to Carlos Adames. So the Canelo fans feel like they have to come out and defend this. They feel like they have to come out and say, well, I don't really agree with him fighting Adames next. I wouldn't agree with that. I don't really agree with him fighting Jaime Munguia next. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's right. Why do you feel the need to come out and defend actions that haven't even been acted on yet? This is not an official fight. even if they announce something like this, Jaime Munguia still got to beat John Ryder, which I don't think he'll beat him, to be honest. But let's say he does. Why do you feel the need on October 25th, October 26th, 2023, when Canelo's not fighting till May? And I told the guy this earlier because he comments in my comment section earlier on Twitter or X or whatever Elon's calling it. And he's saying, well, I don't really agree with him fighting Munguia. I don't agree with that. Why do you feel I can't defend that? That's what he said. I can't defend him fighting Munguia. Why do you feel the need to defend it? Nothing's official. We're 7 months away from his next fight. Why do you feel the need to defend it? And this is the same cycle over and over and over. It's the Canelo haters react to every bit of Canelo news cycle. The news cycle goes fast. It happens every single week. And the dudes with Canelo's derangement syndrome, they're deranged by definition. So they have to react to every bit of Canelo news in a negative manner, specifically. And then the Canelo fans who may have a little cuck in them, to be quite honest, may have a little simp in them, feel the need to come out and say, you know, I can't defend this. I can't defend. What are you defending? He didn't do anything. What do you mean you can't defend it? He hasn't fought Jaime Munguia. What are you defending? There is nothing to defend here. It's a news report, and they're not naming their sources. What are you defending? What is there to defend? Why are you reacting to every single thing that they do? And that's the sad part about this. But let's take it further. Let's say Canelo Alvarez does fight Jaime Munguia next in May. What do we say when the dudes with Canelo derangement syndrome were saying last year? They were saying that Canelo was going to fight Berlanga next. And you know the same cast of characters. They're out there. You know the dudes who were saying Canelo's going to fight Berlanga next. And then they were out there projecting, oh, the Canelo fanboys. The Canelo fanboys, how are they going to deal with Canelo fighting Berlanga? And then, of course, Canelo doesn't fight Berlanga. But what did I say at the time? I said, let's throw out a scenario in which Canelo fights Berlanga. If Canelo fights Berlanga in September and then doesn't fight again till May, let's say Canelo fights Berlanga in September 2023 and doesn't fight again until May 2024. It's indefensible. We wouldn't defend that. We would all be out here saying, you can't fight that fight. Just like if Canelo fought Conor McGregor, you can't fight that fight. You're not Tyson Fury. You're not Floyd Mayweather. That is why we are attracted to you as a fighter. There's a reason that universal fans are attracted to Canelo Alvarez, Naoya Inoue, is because they fight the fights. They're not over there fighting crossover fights. They're not over there robbing the bank. So you got to stick to that and keep that track record. So if you do fight Berlanga in September and then don't fight again till May, it's not defensible. We can't defend that. We can't defend it. But there's a scenario in which the Berlanga fight's okay. It's if Canelo fights in February against Berlanga as a tune-up and then fights again in May, it's defendable, right? We can defend it because he's got something announced right behind it. And that's what's beautiful about the Canelo market is, and I've talked about this, is what makes this relationship so easy. Fan, Canelo. Canelo fan, Canelo is we give you the money, you do the work, and that's it. We trust you to do the work. We trust that you're going to announce a 3-fight plan. I'm fighting September, May, September, and you're going to stick to it. Even if you lose to Bivol in May, you still fight in September against Golovkin. You announce the fight 17 days later, things move fast. We're going to see you again in 4 months. Good. Even if you have surgery after the Golovkin fight, you're not going to be gone for 18 months like a Mel Charlo. You're going to be back. You're going to fight John Ryder in a homecoming fight, and you're back. You're back in May. May, September, May. May, September, May. May, September, May. He has trained the market. He is outpacing his peers 2, some 3-1 as far as fights. But a lot of people can't handle that nuance. All they see is Canelo versus Munguia yesterday, triggered. It's like the cat seeing the laser pointer, triggered. Canelo versus Munguia, they just can't handle it. Their brains explode. Canelo tends to do that to these dudes. He makes their brains short circuit, just explode. He breaks their brains. And there's even good content creators out there doing this, falling victim to it. There's even good content creators who feel the need to come out and say, I can't defend that. Just can't defend that. I can't defend it. Sack up. Tell these dudes to go to hell. Same thing I say about the tank dudes. You're a racist. You don't have tank top 10. You're a racist. Go to hell. Don't care. You're going to call me whatever you want to call me anyway. If I don't pander to these dudes 100% of the time, let's say it's 95% of the time I pander to these dudes. The 5%, that's going to be the 5% they pay attention to. And if I don't pander to them for that 5%, they're going to call me whatever they want to call me anyway. So go ahead. Call me whatever you want to call me. Do it. Go for it. Go for it. Have at it. Have a field day. And it's the same thing with Canelo. Oh, you got the ginger pubic hairs in your mouth. You're a Canelo fanboy. Have at it. Go for it. I'm just telling you what it is. I'm just trying to put you on game. This is the news cycle. This is what happens every time. Their brains are broken every single time they do it. And I actually have skin in the game because I told you, as long as these things work out this way, he's going to fight Benavidez in September. I've told you that from the very beginning. The receipts are all over the place. And I'm so sure of it that if Benavidez beats Boo Boo Andrade on November 25th and everything aligns okay, because this is another obstacle in a way, if everything aligns okay as far as networks, Canelo will fight Benavidez in September. How many times have you heard me say this? You're going to get your fight. You're going to get it. And you're actually getting it on your time. You're getting it on PBC time. You're getting it on Benavidez's time. How many times have we heard the Benavidez fans say, the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be for Canelo. The longer you wait, the worse it's going to be for your King Canelo. It's on your time. I told you from the beginning. PBC deal, 3-fight deal. It's on PBC time. What does the PBC always do? They marinate, marinate, marinate. It's their motto. So naturally, Benavidez is on the back end. Duh. 3-fight deal, Benavidez on the back end. Who has told you this from the very beginning? I'm sorry to try to spike the ball here, but I've told you this from the beginning. Benavidez in September. Benavidez in September. Benavidez on the back end of the 3-fight deal. The initial deal was Benavidez on the back end of the deal. Benavidez back into the deal. Charlo, Spence, 164, and then Benavidez. That was the original deal, right? Whether it's Mel, Maul, Benavidez, whether it's Mel, Munguia, Benavidez, whether it's Mel, whatever. That's the deal that was presented to Canelo, and he's like, whatever. I'll fight your fighters, whatever order you want. Let's do it. I guarantee you that's what's happening. And I told you, I will shut down my channel. I will shut down all my social media. If Benavidez wins his fight against Boo Boo, and then the network stuff aligns, because we gotta throw that in there, right? There's another stipulation. If the network stuff aligns, if Canelo does not fight Benavidez in 2024, I'll shut everything down. You'll never see me again. I'll shut everything down. I'll shut my channel down. I'll shut my X down. I'll shut it all down. That's how, all you got to do is look at the track record. That's how confident I am that I fight Benavidez. Another monkey wrench could be if he fights Bud Crawford, if they try to get him to fight Bud Crawford, but I don't want to see that fight. Give me the Canelo Benavidez fight. Let's go. But as long as there's something right behind the Munguia fight, if he fights Munguia, and then Benavidez, they announce Benavidez in September, it is what it is. What the hell is he going to fight? Maul? What's going to happen in a Maul fight? 120, 108, 120, 107. Stoppage. What's the difference? You're actually going to get a more entertaining fight for the Munguia fight. The hell's the difference? But I've been telling you from the beginning, Benavidez is on the back end of the deal. He's the carrot being dangled. He's the guy that Al wants to come out on top at the very end of this. Hello. It's simple. This is all very simple. but all they see is Canelo, Munguia, and their brains explode. And it becomes exhausting. It becomes frustrating, which is why people give up. It's why people give up. And it's why you see certain fighters end up on pound for pound lists at publications. People just give up, man. They don't want to deal with it. Just go along with the crowd. Just go along with it. Whatever. It's too hard. It's too hard to push back on. But I'm just telling you what it is Canelo versus Benavidez has always been the end goal at the very end of this. And if the end of the contract is in September, that's when the Benavidez fight's going to happen. If it happens in May, beautiful. I'd love that. Fight him twice. Fight him in May, fight him in September, no matter what happens in May. Fight him twice, whatever. It's not like they got anything better going on over there. These PBC fighters are all smoke and mirrors. I've been telling you this. I've been telling you this for a long time. So what the hell is the difference between Maul and Munguia as far as a fight for Canelo? He beats both of them easy anyway. So it is what it is. I got to go get the kids from school. Appreciate y'all tuning in with me. See y'all tomorrow. God bless. Peace.